On this week's episode of the Why I Create podcast, we get to hear from Braydon Corter. In January, Braydon, also known as Brayo, dropped his new album called Cost Fallacy. Stay tuned till the end of the episode to hear his song Summer 23, the fourth track from the album.
I've always just kind of been someone who likes to entertain, whether or not that be comedy, music, dancing. As a kid, I liked to dance a lot. I used to put Michael Jackson music videos on the TV back when they had that Xfinity on demand. If you know, you know. Me and my brother, we used to watch music videos, and I remember I was just fascinated by Michael Jackson, and I learned the moonwalk at a very young age. I don't know. I just always had a thing for entertainment and art, whether or not it's dancing or music or comedy or really anything. I used to draw a lot as a kid as well, so I think I've always just kind of had my foot in the creative realm. I've just always been inspired by entertainers and performers. I just always remember from now, and even when I was a kid, I just remember being fascinated. And this is kind of embarrassing, but I used to have not a crush, but almost like an admiration for One Direction as a kid. And I used to just watch their music videos, and I don't remember how old I was, maybe second grade. I got money for my birthday, and I spent it on the One Direction documentary because I was just so fascinated with, I don't know, I just saw them touring, and I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do someday. So I've always just seen entertainers and performers, and I've kind of wanted to be that for people, you know? And it's not necessarily about the money or the fame. Like, I always just kind of wanted to be that person that puts people in a better place than they were previously. I guess I've kind of just always wanted to kind of lift people up, I guess you could say, in more simple terms. But yeah, I'm Brayo, also known as Braydon Corter, my government name. I'm from York, Pennsylvania. I've been doing music since about 2017, and I use the term music very lightly. What I was making back then, I don't even know if it could pass as music. Unfortunately, I do not make enough to live off of doing music, so I work a full-time job as a forklift operator at I guess you could say it's a bottle factory. Obviously, I don't want to be doing that my entire life, but I'm kind of just figuring it out right now. In terms of music, I like to create what resonates with me, and I guess a lot of times I go for a more nostalgic feel. Back in the early 2010s, maybe like 2010 to roughly 2014, maybe 2016 at the latest, there was like this big kind of like indie movement. Like the songs you'd hear on the radio weren't like songs you'd hear on the radio today. It was kind of like I guess MGMT had a big thing going on back then. I just like to make music that resonates with with my younger self, I guess you could say, and music that may resonate with other people's younger selves as well. I just like to make music that takes me back to like more simple times, you know. This most recent project I released, Sunk Cost Fallacy, it was kind of more of probably one of my more vulnerable projects I've done in a while, and it was more of like an indie vibe. But there's a couple songs that were inspired off that early 2010s kind of indie, almost electronic, almost like a clash between indie and electronic music. It kind of had going on. A couple songs were inspired by that. I kind of just put it out there. I had a couple songs on there that were sitting around, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put this out. I'm gonna try to move past it. You know, I think every album I release is just an era of my life, and it tells a story to that specific time in my life. And I think each project, I kind of just put it out. Don't really worry too much about promoting it or whatever. If people like it, they like it. I just put it out there, you know, and then I try to move past it. Like a lot of the music I listened to growing up, it was a lot of electronic, and artists like Two Hollis. I've been listening to him since maybe 2022, and he's going crazy right now. So, and I think electronic music just really resonates with my inner child. So I think musically, I'm gonna try to go more toward that way, in that direction. I would say the most rewarding thing with making music is the progression from where you were yesterday to where you are now. And the best part about it is the progression doesn't always have to be crazy. It doesn't always have to be this massive, like, oh gosh, I'm blowing up. Like, you know, I like to do it for myself because I enjoy doing it. I think that's the most rewarding part, is just the art of it. Like, there's so many possibilities, especially when you finally learn to produce for yourself. You realize, like, wow, there's so much I can do with, like, just because me personally, I'm into almost every genre you can think of. So I think the most rewarding part is just all the possibilities there are. It's just, I don't know. I love music, man. How and when did I get involved in creating this art form? That's a good question, actually. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's blurry, but the first ever memory I have of making music was maybe 2016, 2017. I was in 6th grade, and I remember we had these iPad minis, and I used to go on GarageBand, and I used to use like the default loops, and I would just make like trap beats, you know? Like, they weren't good. It was maybe only like 10 bars because I had like no music knowledge. I would just, I don't know. And then 7th grade hit, and one day I came home. This is when the big SoundCloud era was going on with like X. Like, I don't know if Juice WRLD was coming up yet, but Ski Mask the Slump God, Trippie Redd, you know, if you know, you know, the whole SoundCloud era. That was big when I was in middle school. And I just was like, one day I just looked up XXX Tentacion type beats on YouTube, and first one I found, I went on iMovie. I didn't even record it in actual like DAW, which is like, you know, music recording software. I went in iMovie and went on the voice recording feature, and I probably recorded the worst song ever recorded, and it was kind of like a big thing because no one in 7th grade was really making music, so it was kind of like a meme almost. And that was like my first memory of it. I kind of had that going on. My name was a little Slant at the time. I don't know where it came from. Well, I do know where it came from. That's a story for a different day. But yeah. 7th and 8th grade, I was kind of making like, if you even want to call it music, I was making like unserious rap, and I was pretty much doing that until maybe 2021. I didn't start progressing with music until about 2023, you know. I didn't start taking it serious until about 2022 maybe. That's 2022 is when I first like, cuz I always kind of made it in the privacy of my own bedroom, didn't tell anyone I made music. Only like 2 people knew. So one day on Snapchat, it was actually St. Patrick's Day. And, it was 2022. I posted on my Snapchat story back when I was on Snapchat. I posted this album just out of nowhere, just posted it and be like, out now on SoundCloud. And at this time, nobody knew that I made music. And I was making like underground rap, like, you know, like nothing talent, nothing with talent, nothing crazy, you know. And everyone went crazy. And it took me like a while to realize that people liked it ironically, and I was kind of the butt of the joke, but I just liked the attention, I guess. So after a while, I realized that, and I was like, you know what? I want people to start taking me seriously. So I tried to get more into like singing, but it took me a while to like ease off the auto tune. I'm finally getting to a point where I'm comfortable using my voice, which you can kind of see a little bit on that album I dropped in January, Sunk Cost Fallacy. What drives you to keep creating even when it feels like no one's paying attention? I love that question. Because I think that resonates with me heavily, because honestly, a lot of times it does feel like no one's paying attention. And I like to do music for myself, as I said before. And I just love the art of it. Like, I can have 1 person listen to my music, 2 people listen to my music. I would still feel the same about it, you know? as long as I like what I'm doing and I'm comfortable with what I'm doing and I enjoy it, I don't care if I have no listeners, you know? I just love the art of it. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, no one listens to my music. I think I'm going to quit," you know? Like that's not really the perspective in which I see it. I kind of see it as long as you're doing what you love, as long as you enjoy it, and keep doing it. Don't do things for other people, do things for yourself. What am I most proud of? Honestly, as of now, I would say I'm not really where I want to be in terms of a person, in terms of music, and just in general. The thing I'm most proud of, I would say, is the progression from where I was previous years to where I am now. The great thing about music is you're constantly learning, constantly evolving. You know, you're never really at a standstill. And I think I'm just proud of the progression I've made. Is there any past experience that highly influences your art? Well, as I said before, I like to watch and listen to a lot of Michael Jackson when I was a kid. I've just always been listening to music. Like my dad, he had one of the first iPods. And I just remember I'd steal it from him and I would just listen to music all day. Like not I wouldn't even be doing. I would just sit down. You know, music just always been. I've always been listening to music ever since I was a kid. I used to dance in the basement with my mom. We would listen to Kelly Clarkson, "Since You've Been Gone." That was like the song that we would listen to, and I'd just be in my diaper, just jamming out. You know, I think that has just kind of stuck with me. I remember in the 5th grade, I had an iPad. Well, it was the same iPad Minis as I spoke of before. The first artist that I found that really was like, okay, because grew up in a Catholic household. We didn't really listen to, my parents didn't really listen to anything other than like oldies and like whatever was on the radio or like country music. So in 5th grade, I found out about Young Thug and Fetty Wap, and that was like my kind of rabbit hole into like hip hop music, or like trap, I should say. And that's kind of like what led me to make trap beats on GarageBand, which is kind of, I guess, what led to recording music to where I am today. What events led you to where you are in fame? Personally, I don't know I don't think I would really consider myself famous. I have maybe 3,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which I guess is a lot on paper. I've had more in the past, but I've kind of dialed down. I don't want to sound pretentious or anything. What's led me to where I am now? I would say in high school, I was in the school paper back when my name was Brayo the Baby. Oh my God. That was my original name, for those of you who don't know. And it was kind of like an inside joke for everybody. Everyone would call me that as like a, you know, because it's kind of a funny name, I guess, and I just simplified it to what it is now. But I think being in the school paper kind of was like, oh, okay. So because every generation in my high school, at least, has that SoundCloud rapper, and you know, but I think I don't want to sound too pretentious or too full of myself or anything, but I think they were kind of like, oh, this is like the one guy that, okay, we can kind of take him serious a little bit, because I had my music on Spotify. Everyone else before really only had it on SoundCloud, and it wasn't really getting plays like that. I had like roughly 20,000 monthly listeners at the time, so I was kind of going crazy. I guess in shorter terms, there were a couple songs on Spotify, I guess on my current Spotify, that people really liked, and it led to me kind of gaining more traction, more streams, more monthly listeners, and I guess you could say that's where it led to the quote-unquote fame, I guess you could say. Am I where I want to be, or is there a higher goal? I would say it's kind of half and half. While I think it would be nice to make a living off of it, maybe not be famous, but at least be like a little bit of like a niche artist that people know of, but you have a cult fan base, you know? I guess that would kind of be the higher goal, but I'm okay with where I'm at now, you know? Well, I've been Brayo. This is the Why I Create podcast with the host David Hay, and it's been a pleasure being on here. Thank you.
time.